Jackson police are investigating a double shooting today that left one dead and another fighting for her life.
We've arrived in Rolling Fork. We are in Sharkey County, and we see devastation, significant devastation to this town.
In Jackson, Mississippi, school drop-off isn't just for the kids. It's also for the water. The entire city is facing a boil water notice again.
Out with the old, in with the new, Keep Jackson Beautiful has showcased their first MLK mural project in their continuous effort to beautify the city.
We're hoping that when we beautify, everyone will want to say, hey, we don't want to trash this area. We want it to look beautiful and keep it beautiful.
Well, that's a deep question already. No, I've thought about this a lot lately, and I also apologize because I can be long-winded. But I used to say that our origin story began with just me picking up trash in the neighborhood and seeing that this building was for lease because it had been abandoned for years. And before that, I know it was an abortion clinic, then it was a daycare, then it sat abandoned for close to a decade before we stumbled upon it. But then I realized lately that our origin story starts a little bit before then. And it, I remember how triggered I was and angered I was about Offbeat and about the Flamingo basically more or less being displaced by property owners who are just like, hey, we know you've cultivated this great space for Black creatives and just for the Jackson arts community and the cultural significance it has, but we think we want to move in another direction business-wise, so we're just going to put y'all out. And I remember being extremely frustrated because my friends worked hard to develop those spaces, and someone from outside of the artist community didn't see the value in it, or once they did recognize the value, they wanted it for themselves. And so I wanted to make sure that we could create a space that is owned and operated by the artist community, where we have that kind of authority to be dope and don't have to ask permission. We give people the opportunity to try and not have things perfect. We give people the opportunity to screw up. And I love that because there are so many artistic outlets that people aren't taking advantage of. They have a genuine curiosity, but there's some shame in like, what if I don't get it right? And we like to be that cutting room floor kind of space where you can come and learn and find mentors and try out whatever it is that you're interested in artistically without being judged, but encouraged the whole time. I hope to see more people having that audacious outlook on what they have the power to do within their communities. I always say that BAC's big goal has nothing to do with this particular building, is that someone in Shady Oaks will say, hey man, we got some abandoned buildings in our neighborhood, why don't we start the Shady Oaks Art Center? And someone in Brown Bottom says, hey, let's start the Brown Bottom Art Center. And it's just a viral thought, even more so than the physical space, because the community impact that we have the capacity to have, and once again, no longer waiting for somebody else to, from a governmental standpoint, from a larger corporate standpoint, to come and save us. What we have been able to do is take our neighborhood back into our own hands from a community service and community impact point that's completely grassroots. What are you gonna do about it? what are you gonna do about it? I went to a tour of the Jackson Medical Mall, and the executive director of the Jackson Medical Mall Foundation is a guy named Primus Wheeler. And before he gave us a tour of the facility, he showed us a slideshow, and the first slide said, you can either change zip codes or you can change your zip code. And I've never forgotten that phrase since then, and I think about maybe I can't save all of Jackson, maybe I can't save all of Mississippi, but that doesn't mean that I can't have an impact in my own neighborhood and within the my general vicinity. And so we can start there and hope to inspire people to do the same in theirs.
My desire came from a place of need, just dealing with health issues myself, my children also, and from there, realizing that my community dealt with the same issues. So, having to take a stand and just started. Jackson didn't have any juice bars here. We didn't have places where we could go and get real, true, whole health. So, I had to solve the problem. For the communities that we're in, it is so beneficial because we're there as community support, but also an educational piece. Because when it comes to health, especially in Mississippi, most people just don't understand what true wellness is. And then a lot of times we're overwhelmed with so much information that we just say forget it and we go for what we know. But in the communities that we're in, we're able to have people walk in for the first time every day, whichever it may be, and they feel empowered that they can take control of their health and their wellness as a whole. Oh no, not at all. I was junk food junkie. I don't know if that's a word, but for me, health was just far from my mind. All I knew was working out and drink a smoothie, and anything. It was a sugared up smoothie, like get something that I can just kind of put in, make me feel full and keep going. Health didn't become a first thought of mine until I needed it. And that's why we're here in the community, to show people that you don't have to wait until you need help. You can start the process now. It wasn't until adulthood. I used to eat rib tips by the buckets, licking my fingers and enjoying it with a headache the next day. And it took me to go through personal issues with my health for me to be like, hey, let's try something different. When I listen to the single, it makes me feel as if I am the solution to the problems that arise in my community. It makes me feel like I have a say-so, like I can use my voice and be the difference. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel like, hey, if no one else is gonna do it, I can. I just have to take a look in the mirror and believe it. And as long as I believe it, I can achieve it.
So I was living in St. Petersburg, Florida, even though I had been born and raised in Clinton. And I felt like God was calling us to come back and to start a multicultural church here in the city. And so I called my grandmother and I was just asking her to pray for me, telling her what God was doing. And she said, Scott, I need to tell you a story that I've never told you before. In 1835, your great-great-great-grandfather, Thomas Helm, donated land to an African-American church. And that African-American church, in turn, named the church in his honor. It's Mount Helm Baptist Church, which is the oldest religious body, and oldest African-American religious body in the city of Jackson. It's like, man, that's a pretty cool story. As we moved back and we started exploring touring the city, we narrowed in on this neighborhood, Midtown. And as we did, I called that same grandmother and I said, hey, we found where we're gonna start. You wanna see it? And she said, sure. So I put her in my car and we started driving around and we got to the north end of the neighborhood and she said, I used to live in that house and I used to live in that house and I used to live in that house. She pointed out about 7 different houses on the north end of the neighborhood. And I was so unbelievably confirmed. So we say that God started something in my family's life about 200 years ago. He continued in the life of my grandmother that He's given my family the opportunity to be a part of today. As I looked at this neighborhood, though, I really realized that this neighborhood had done a lot of work, and they had come together and rallied together to rebuild some houses and establish some other new complexes. And I said, I want to come in and be a part of that, learn from that, and experience what really community development looks like. So, well, we love being a part of this community and we consider ourselves very much a part of the fabric of the community. So we've had the opportunity to do a number of different things. In fact, today I even just left going to an Alcorn State football game with a bunch of the guys in the neighborhood. We partnered with the city to reopen a city swimming pool down the street. We started a lawn care business for teenagers in the neighborhood. And so we look for very practical ways that we can look at our city and our neighborhood and say, we love you, we care about you. What is it that you want to see happen, and how can we come alongside you to help that dream become a reality? Honestly, what I want to see more of in this community is I want to see people come alive. I believe as we start chasing the dream that God has placed in our heart that we come alive. And I believe what we need are people that are alive and are engaging with everything that God's called them to be. So I don't have specifics to that answer because I think it changes. I consider myself a dream fueler. And so I want somebody to come to me with a dream and me to be able to figure out the how to make it happen, let them go and watch them do incredible things. And I believe when you look around our city that we have a lot of dreamers that are doing a lot of incredible things that I think should be highlighted and should be known. And I think when I start looking at our city, I believe that we have a whole lot more sitting in the midst that are still covered, and we just need to lift that cover and watch them fulfill the dream that God's placed on their heart. So I love the way it starts with what do they say? Because those thoughts and those ideas can so penetrate me. What do they say? And I always have to ask the question when that thought starts going through my head is, who is they? And so I love the fact that it turns around and says, what say you? And it makes that personal, because what I see is not what they see, and what I do is not what they do, and what I am is not what they are. And so it gives this idea that we all have our part to play. I love what my friend Amy Lancaster told me one time. She said, I'm praying for 1,000 points of light in the city. And as I think about that, what an incredible vision it would look like if all of our city was a part of that 1,000 points of light, of sharing, taking the light into the darkness and watching people come alive because they see the light.
Offbeat is the brainchild of myself. It came about because I wanted to create a community space that I grew up in, basically. And Jackson didn't have any community spaces like that anymore. So record stores and comic book shops were non-existent at the time when I created it. I was part of the Mississippi Black Leadership Institute. We had to come up with a project for the community. My peers ran for office or opened up a practice. I decided to open up this space that acts as an alternative culture store, record store, comic book shop, and art gallery for young minority artists. The way that Offbeat benefits the community is basically through engagement. We lose a lot of interpersonal connections through internet and getting recommendations from our peers and like-minded individuals. So we use this space as, a meeting ground for doing like model building days, or we have art show openings for young minority artists, or we'll have record listening parties. So it's kind of a all-inclusive space for people to just really be themselves in a sense and, you know, experience something new that they haven't before. What I hope to see more in the community around here is more just participation. We always try to down what we have here, what we don't have here, and we have so much here to offer, whether it's event-wise or business-wise or just artistic-wise in general. And we don't really look within ourselves, within our community, at what we do have in order to utilize everything that we have. And we also trying to keep up with what other cities or other towns have and what we don't have. But the thing about it is we can create things that we don't have because we have so much space and opportunity to keep growing here. The first thing I heard was it was a call to action. It was a call for whatever the action may be, whether it's political or doing something in your neighborhood or your church. It's a positive song for people to like get behind and just kind of invokes a feeling of doing something that needs to be done in a sense of urgency. You know, that's what I heard.
So the Young, Gifted, and Empowered came from a place of needing to do something and wanting to add to the movement in the Black community. It actually was something that I birthed after Trayvon Martin and after the trial, and just how Blacks were portrayed in the media and how that affected me. I work a lot with the media, and I just, wanted to do something. I wanted to be a part of telling our stories in a different way. And so I birthed Young, Gifted, and Empowered. And we're headed into year 9 of creating this platform of telling stories of young African Americans who are from Mississippi, who are impactful in a number of areas, including innovation, leadership, entrepreneurship, community outreach, education, and philanthropy. So it was just birthed out of a place of wanting to do my part to help in the movement. Well, it helps to tell the story about the stories about the community that I live in. A lot of times when you're watching the news or when you're looking at different media platforms, you don't get to hear the good stories. You don't get to hear the stories of the positive impacts that are being made in our community, the great things that people are doing, things that people are doing just out of pure passion and love for the people in their community and the people that they serve, and wanting to see a change. So for me, that's how we are impacting our community. That's how we're, helping our community, by being storytellers and change agents. I would like to see more people understanding that everyone has a role to play. And regardless of, what your contribution is, it is needed. It is valuable. It is. It can help change things. So, what I would like to see more of is people doing what they love. People being able to be the change that they want to see in their communities. It makes me say, am I doing enough? Because it's easy to complain about how things are, or it's always say, well, somebody could do something better, or they could have done this better. But what are you doing? What are you doing to add to the community? So when I heard it, it definitely resonated with me to say, okay, are you doing all that you could do? Is there more that can be done? So what say you, Shamika? Are you gonna do, are you gonna be the change? So.
I think, man, we from that area. I mean, we of that area, so I think whenever, man, you get a chance to notice the things you needed in a certain space, when you get the opportunity to provide those things, I think it's your duty to do that. I would say, man, we do so much, but I think our main objective is to be seen and be visible, to say the things we don't think like certain people get an opportunity to hear, and show them the things we don't think they get a chance to see. So we try to do that in everything we do. Maybe teamwork and positive conflict resolution. Man, it's hard to put our finger on what we do specifically. I think we try to do anything we can do, honestly. So it might be, we might pick up some paper that day, or we might, have a class to teach something. So, man, we really just try to do whatever we can do that we feel like. And if we can't do it, we try to get somebody we know that can do it, honestly. Yeah. So I don't know what we do. Really, everything if we can. Oh, man. When I first heard it, man, I was surprised at how good it sounded. From most songs that had that type of feel that got a certain message in it, man, they don't really sound that good. You might got Heal the World or something that sounded good. But this song sounded good initially. It just, without the message or without what it meant, it just felt good to hear. But listening to it, man, felt like a call to action though, also. So it was a powerful, powerful moment. Listening to it for the first time, I was shocked by how good it sounded, and I was also, it kind of made me feel like, man, I need to do something. Do something.